Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to Verdant. Remember that Verdant is a reorganizing hub for small businesses which gives them a numbers dashboard on the background of an audit, outlines its processes, converts them to step-by-step execution with support documentation, and will also help you define your big why you've been in business in the first place. So we offer startups foundational technical assistance and coaching. So now we were doing the nuggets coming from the Bible in the book of Genesis, and we went up to chapter 10. And I just want to pick up with chapter 11. Again, this is very brief, but it is still going to be useful. So it talks about Genesis from verse 1. The whole earth was with one language, and the whole earth was with one language, and of one speech. And it came to pass as they journeyed from the east that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. So there's one unity of purpose, one direction, one focus, just unison. And they said to one another, "Go to, let us make brick and burn them thoroughly." And they had brick for stone, and slime had they for mortar. And they said, "Go to, let us build us a city and a tower, whose top may reach unto heaven. And let us make us a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth." Now notice there's the focus on themselves. It says, "Let us build a city whose top may reach unto heaven, and let us make us a name, and lest we become scattered abroad." There are things that we do even as businesses with selfish intention. Making a name for yourself should never be an end in itself. And then there's a fear of being scattered abroad, but sometimes even the expansion, in fact, not sometimes, we've seen this over and over again, where God says, multiply, fruitful and multiplication, scatter broadly, is actually a thing that God wants us to do. In other words, it shouldn't be enclosed. We should actually, since we are light and salt of the earth, as human beings, God has put light in us by the very fact that He has put His likeness in us. We have a deposit that is eternal, that is ethereal, that is from Him. So, it is very unfair for us to enclose ourselves and build a city for ourselves, and build a community from which we can thrive, and we alone, without affecting the world that He sent us to. And this, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth, is actually counter God. It's counter what God would want to happen in the first place. And the Lord came down because He'd want us to spread abroad and become vast in our impact, in the help that we give to other people. We should be affecting on a global scale, not being comfortable and, thriving amongst a small community. And the Lord said, "Behold, the people is one. They have all one language. And this they begin to do. Now nothing will be restrained from them, which they have imagined." Now don't get me wrong. It's not that we're not supposed to do things out of unison, but it's actually whether that activity is in line with the will of God. Because a lot of times men and women have come together to do things, but was it for God or was it for themselves? So notice this is a selfish motive and coming together for selfish intent for them alone to make a name was not pleasing. But also the unity meant that they could do even destructive things, and God wasn't pleased with that. So let us go down and there confound their language, that they may not understand one another's speech. So diversity is actually a good thing. You get variety, you get to see what other people get to do. And there is a challenge in the fact that we don't know, so we've got to learn. And we have to explore and find new ways of doing things simply because we are of a different nature. So whatever works in your town or your city, your country will not work in a different environment. So we have to find ways to thrive in unknown territory. And by unknown or unfamiliar language or speech. So the Lord scattered them abroad from thence upon the face of the earth, and they left off to build the city. They stopped building the city. Therefore is the name called Babel, because the Lord did there confound the language of all the earth, and from thence did the Lord scatter them abroad upon the face of the earth. Notice the emphasis is on scattering them abroad upon the face of all the earth. They needed to go. They needed to go out there to disperse, to apply themselves, to learn new things, to challenge themselves, not in a comfort zone, but in the unknown, so they would trust Him, so they would use what they have to explore new things, new ways of doing things. These are the generations of Shem. Shem was 100 years old and begat Arphaxad 2 years after the flood. And Shem, remember Shem was Noah's son, and Shem lived after he begat Arphaxad 500 years and begat sons and daughters. And Arphaxad lived 530 years and begat Salah. And Arphaxad lived after he begat Salah 403 years and begat sons and daughters. And Salah lived 30 years and begat Eber. And Salah lived after he begat Eber 403 years and begat sons and daughters. And Eber lived 34 years and begat Peleg. So this is going somewhere, okay? So hanging there. And Eber lived after he begat Peleg 430 years and begat sons and daughters. And Peleg lived 30 years and begat Reu. And Peleg lived after he begat Reu 290 years and begat sons and daughters. And Reu lived 32 years and begat Serug. And Reu lived after he begat Serug 207 years and begat sons and daughters. And Serug lived 30 years and begat Nahor. Okay. And Serug lived after he begat Nahor 200 years and begat sons and daughters. And Nahor lived 9 and 20 years. Okay. Let's look for a different translation so that is very clear. And Nahor was 29 years. He became the father of Terah. After the birth of Terah, Nahor lived another 119 years and had other sons and daughters. And Terah was 70 years old. He became the father of Abraham. Now notice this, that the average age of those who are begatting, the genealogy here, the average age for them to father or sire a child is about 30. So Arphaxad was 35, Shelah 30, Eber 30, 30 for Peleg, Reu 32, Serug 30, Nahor 29, Terah 70. That's when he became the father of Abraham, Nahor, and Haran. So again, as we said, there's always the value of qualitative to explain the quantitative. So that's an anomaly. There's something there. It almost took double the average age of the rest, over double, to get his children, not Terah. Terah's children came at the age of 70. This is the account of Terah's family. Terah was the father of Abram, Nahor, and Haran. I guess they were triplets, we don't know. And Haran was the father of Lot. But Haran died in Ur of the Chaldeans, the land of his birth. Again, we're sort of seeing the first death recorded. It's not clear why. But for the first time, we know of a son being buried by their father, because the other example we had was of Enoch, but he walked with God and he was no more. So it's sort of a mysterious death. But Haran died in Ur of the Chaldeans, the land of his birth, while his father Terah was still living. And notice that the Bible actually emphasizes emphasizes that it was while his father Terah was still living. Meanwhile, Abram and Nahor both married. The name of Abram's wife was Sarah, and the name of Nahor's wife was Milcah. Milcah and her sister Iscah were daughters of Nahor's brother Haran. Now notice what's happening now. There's a lot of intermarriage within the same family. The name of Abram's wife was Sarah. Nahor's wife was Milcah, and Milcah and her sister were daughters of Nahor's brother. Okay, so this is a sister-in-law, and also niece at the same time. But Sarah was unable to become pregnant and had no children. Now notice that emphasis that God has laid on multiplication, giving birth. So even as a business, we must keep giving birth. There's a problem when a business is barren. In other words, there are no ideas, there are no fresh concepts, nothing is happening, no innovation, no new projects. There's nothing novel. What we're doing is just having a sense of barrenness. Now one day, Terah took his son Abram, his daughter-in-law Sarai, his son Abram's wife, and his grandson Lot, his son Haran's child, and moved away from Ur of the Chaldeans. Now notice it goes back to what we had with the Tower of Bethel. They had to move away, scattering. Sometimes you gotta change location, or change strategy, change management, change your strategy. It's just a form of renewal. There's a fresh air. Change is as good as rest. There's a fresh air of change of environment, change of your product line, change focus. So we will see how this relocation affected the rest of the genealogy of the children of Terah. So he was headed for the land of Canaan, but they stopped at Haran. In other words, Terah had a vision, but he stopped somewhere along the way in a place called Haran. Now when we begin, we need to move and keep moving. Don't lose sight of your vision. Terah lived 205 years and died while still in Haran. So even by the time of death, he never went to the location that he had intended. So are you on track with your vision? Are you headed in the direction that you intended to? And that is where monitoring and evaluation comes in. You want to monitor your progress, check your indicators, see whether, as we spoke in chapter 1 of Genesis, is what you're producing equal and similar to what you intended to produce at a certain time or by a certain time and in a certain manner. In other words, have you diverted off the course? Are you on course? Are you able to measure what the course is? What is the course and where is the course supposed to lead anyway? So God bless you. I hope you have gained something from this. This is Genesis chapter 11, and we will move on with the book of Genesis. As we continue, remember that you can get in touch via Facebook Messenger. Bye-bye for now. God bless you.